G'day mate, 40 here. Pretty concerned. I've been looking at the news and apparently there's a lot of divisive Republican actions and rhetorics regarding race, particularly in Tennessee. I'm just concerned, why do Republicans have to be so divisive? Like, divisive is really bad. It's like being controversial. Right? That means bad person. Now, in the 1960s into the 70s, being controversial, even divisive, was a good thing, particularly if you're doing it from the left, but we know better now. Divisive and controversial is bad. So why are Republicans being so divisive on race? Like, just ejecting 2 black members of the Tennessee state legislature just because they use bullhorns to disrupt proceedings? Well, okay, let's think a second time here. If you use bullhorns to disrupt proceedings at some event or in some group, it's not shocking to me that they would eject you. That seems pretty commonsensical. So, is it just Republicans who are being divisive on race? I mean, I would think that interrupting the business of government, like what the January 6th protesters did, right? Wasn't that divisive and controversial and bad? So too, the gun control activists who disrupted the business of government in Tennessee, and that strikes me as a bad thing. And this is the first visible signs of smog. Look at that dark layer over the city of Los Angeles. It's the first visible signs of smog that I remember during my 3 months back in LA from Australia. So apparently the air quality today is 78, which is moderate. So it's about the worst air quality that I remember in about 3 months in LA. But aren't those black activists who disrupt Tennessee state legislature, or any activists who disrupt the workings of government, aren't they being divisive? Whether they're right wing, left wing, black, white. So it doesn't surprise me, doesn't bother me, doesn't shock me, doesn't appall me if a legislature would want to remove, right, members of its group who are disrupting proceedings. That makes sense to me. So it's just curious that it's always Republicans who are painted as being divisive. But when Black Lives Matter activists shut down roads, right, when they torch police buildings, when they cause billions of dollars of property damage, when they frighten millions of Americans, when they intimidate millions of Americans, when they disrupt commutes, disrupt businesses, disrupt the peaceful lives of millions of Americans, why isn't that divisive? And Antifa does the same thing. Why isn't that divisive? Why is it that one side apparently gets to provoke, one side gets to interrupt the lives of millions of Americans, and that's not divisive? But response to this criminal behavior, that is divisive. Like, how could it not be a crime to march into a state legislature like the Tennessee state legislature with bullhorns and interrupt the proceedings? Like, I'm kind of a traditional bloke, I guess. I think like government proceedings, legal proceedings, church proceedings, synagogue proceedings should be allowed to go on without interruption. If someone interrupts these things, it seems to me that they're committing a crime. Just like you had a Republican judge speaking at Stanford, and I don't see any crime if the crowd hisses or boos, but if they become so overwhelmingly loud that the guy can't speak, then it seems to me that the university should take steps to restrict that kind of division. So if the university takes steps to, say, expel or discipline students who disrupt, someone trying to give a speech, is that divisive? Like, why aren't the student activists who try to shut down people's speech, or who try to shut down normal proceedings of daily life or of government, why aren't they divisive? It seems to me that divisive is highly subjective. It's like when you hear someone complaining about their long-running relationship, right? Probably some role that they've played to disturb the equilibrium and the harmony of their relationship. And that played a role in the other person's supposedly divisive behavior, right? I don't think actions occur in a vacuum. Now, that's far from saying that everyone's just equally at fault, right? That's not true. I just suspect, though, that this overwhelming media portrayal of the Republicans is just terribly divisive. I just suspect that's not particularly fair. And if you disrupt public life, particularly government life or legal life, or cops doing their job, or judges doing their job, politicians doing their job, or government agencies doing their job, then it seems to me there should be some kind of price to pay. And punishing the disruptors doesn't strike me as divisive. It strikes me as the mark of civilization.